Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. If you're looking to expand your manufacturing business across Asia right now, you already know that sustainability, it's way past being just a buzzword. It is a strict barrier to entry. Today, we're going to unpack the Singapore Green Labeling Scheme, the SGLS. I want you to think of this not just as a pretty sticker for your packaging, but honestly, as your strategic business passport for regional expansion into the incredibly lucrative ASEAN market. So let's just dive right in.
Now, you might be wondering, how do you actually prove your product is genuinely green? Because breaking into these eco-conscious markets today is tough. It is incredibly challenging. Consumers, regional procurement teams, they are super skeptical of self-declared environmental claims. And with accusations of greenwashing literally at an all-time high, just slapping a little green leaf on your box, that's not going to cut it anymore. You need independent, totally unshakable proof.
So here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at what the SGLS actually is. 2. The categories and coverage. 3. The ASEAN market advantage. 4. The certification process itself. And finally, 5. Overcoming those certification challenges.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1. What is the SGLS? Understanding Singapore's Trusted Green Certification. So the SGLS isn't just some basic checklist. It is actually Singapore's only Type 1 ISO 14024 eco-label. And okay, what does that alphabet soup actually mean for you? Basically, it means it's an internationally recognized, life-cycle-based eco-label, independently verified by a third party. It's not just looking at your final product sitting on a shelf, it's evaluating environmental standards across the product's entire life cycle. It was launched way back in 1992 by the Ministry of the Environment, and since 1999, it's been administered by the Singapore Environment Council, or SEC. And it's exactly that independent administration by the SEC that completely guarantees its credibility and actively stops greenwashing in its tracks.
To really wrap our heads around the massive scale of this scheme, check out these numbers. We are talking over 3,500 certified products, backed by over 400 active licensees. And those products? They're present in more than 30 countries globally, all evaluated against over 50 incredibly strict product standards or criteria documents. I mean, this is a mature, globally recognized, and deeply trusted label. We're talking about a regionally relevant powerhouse here, not just some trendy startup certification that's confined strictly to Singapore. And I want to highlight a really crucial year for you, 2003. That is the exact year the SGLS became a member of the highly prestigious Global Ecolabelling Network, GEN. Securing that GEN membership absolutely cemented its worldwide trust, placing it right up there alongside the most respected Type 1 ecolabels on the entire planet.
Moving right along to Section 2, Categories and Coverage. Basically, does your product actually fit?
So the SGLS covers an incredibly broad umbrella. We're talking 9 major product categories, spanning everything from building materials and electronics to personal care and even solar equipment. And honestly, what I really love about the SEA is how they continuously evolve these categories just to keep up with market demands. Just to give you an example, in January 2026, they launched brand new criteria under their sustainable and specialized category for things like home and industrial compostable products and even heat-reflective paints and surface coatings. They are constantly adapting to stay right on the bleeding edge of sustainability. But look, as a focus learner, you also really need to know the hard boundaries, right? While those 9 major categories we just talked about are eligible, things like food, beverages, and pharmaceuticals are strictly excluded from the SGLS. It's so important to know this up front because it saves you a ton of time and resources. Complete transparency is absolutely key when you're making executive decisions about your certifications.
Okay, Section 3, the ASEAN Market Advantage. Or, in other words, why this actually matters for your business ROI.
Now this is a real game changer. In May 2026, the SEC signed a landmark Mutual Recognition Agreement (MRA) with the Korea Environmental Industry and Technology Institute, or KEIT, specifically focused on multi-purpose cleaners. This is the big narrative payoff right here. An MRA essentially means that if you achieve the SGLS, you get a massive head start in being recognized by partner ecolabels in other countries, like Korea in this case. It completely reframes the SGLS from being just a local Singaporean label into a genuine regional superpower. So ultimately, the SGLS gives you the ultimate edge in Singapore and across those broader ASEAN markets. It builds instant, undeniable trust with consumers. On top of that, your certification evidence is directly downloadable right from the SGLS directory, which, let me tell you, is absolutely critical for winning those competitive green procurement tenders. It basically acts as an independently verified shield against any greenwashing claims. And as we just saw with that Korea example, it dramatically reduces the cost and the time it takes to enter new markets thanks to those regional MRAs.
Which brings us to Section 4, the certification process. Let's talk about how you actually get certified.
The SEC has actually streamlined this into a surprisingly straightforward three-step journey. First, you confirm your eligibility. Second, you submit your application. And third, you receive your certification and get officially listed in the SGLS directory. So, let's break those down a bit.
It all starts with step 1. And no, you don't just guess what's required here. You'll reach out and contact the SGLS Secretariat directly with your product details and sales info. Their team is going to assess your specific product and match it directly to one of those 50+ criteria documents we talked about earlier. That specific document? That becomes your exact step-by-step blueprint for the rest of the process. Now, steps 2 and 3, this is where the real heavy lifting happens. You're going to want to prepare yourself for some serious paperwork. You have to submit a highly specific, super well-prepared technical dossier. And to be clear, this isn't just a packet of marketing materials. You need accredited lab test reports, relevant ISO certifications, and rock-solid supporting documents that prove you meet those lifecycle criteria. After that, the Secretariat reviews your technical submission. And if approved, boom, you are awarded the Green Label license.
Finally, Section 5, Overcoming Certification Challenges. Let's talk about bridging the gap.
Because let's be totally realistic for a second. Manufacturers face some pretty significant operational hurdles here. You're dealing with dense, highly technical criteria that are very specific to your product group. Securing the exact right ISO certs, ensuring your lab tests are from properly accredited facilities, that takes a lot of time. You also have to train your internal R&D, your QA/QC folks, and even your marketing teams on lifecycle assessments and strict labeling rules. And on top of all that, effectively liaising with the SGLS Secretariat over in Singapore requires a real understanding of their unique processes. It's a lot.
But the good news, you absolutely do not have to do this alone. Let's say you're a business operating in a place like Vietnam, and you're looking to export to Singapore. Well, there are independent consulting and training providers who can act as your mentors through this whole process. We're talking about firms like ISC Global, Luong Services, and STC VN, also known as Staunchly Vietnam. They specialize in bridging this exact gap. They provide the necessary training, they help you put together that massive technical dossier with the right lab connections, and they handle all the tricky liaison work with the SEC. Basically, they help you entirely bypass that incredibly costly trial and error phase.
And that brings us to our final slide. And honestly, the most important question for you to consider today. Is your product ready for ASEAN? We've seen that the SGLS is way more than just a label on a box. It is a rigorous, deeply respected, and highly strategic passport that actively opens doors to regional tenders and unmatched consumer trust. The roadmap is completely clear, and the support systems, they're already in place. So, the only question left for you is, when are you going to take that next step and secure your green passport? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this brought some absolute clarity to your regional expansion strategy.